Hashtag sorry, not sorry, but welcome back to season 3. And with a dwellers below, dwellers below.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the rest, good morning, good evening, whatever it is, whenever you may be listening to this episode of The Dwellers Below, a Warhammer, the old podcast, by us, the old crew, a legacy podcast, if you will, of people desperately trying to cling to relevance with mediocre content that is mildly entertaining at best. Boys, just the three of us today. Let's.
That's right.
They're three good ones. That's good.
And Lachie, what are we?
You got the three idiots today, the ones that don't really
Lachie,
know
what are
much
we?
about
Guys,
it.
we didn't rehearse this. What are we, Lachie?
I don't know what we are. What do you mean?
We are back. We
We
are
are
back.
back. Of course we are. Damn.
next
Back.
time you get it.
But you know what's new is news and rumours, with which I hear you guys have got some stuff that's been brewing, that's been happening in the rumour mill. It's been turning. What's been happening? Tell us.
Yes.
Enlighten us.
Yes. I'm gonna jump in here. I was, spending far too long browsing the internet, and came across various YouTube channels that have shown the first tidbits, the first little rumors about what I'm very stoked for, which is the impending Empire release, Empire Arcane Journal, which some people are saying could be as soon as like Jan 1. Like 2025, first thing out the door from Games Workshop is Old World Empire. They did it last year, apparently, with the release of the game. It was super early in the year. So not afraid to release Old World in the quiet period.
Just
But-
before CanCon though, which is good.
Yeah.
Could
Danny,
be
can
good.
you paint a 10th Empire army before CanCon? Is the question.
Yes, I can. And I got really, this is just a little tidbit that I heard that I was very excited about, and my brain was doing like the Always Sunny, like red string, like making up crazy hypotheses. Someone said that the models that are coming is a general model, like a HQ of some description, and then a bunch of different wizards. And this particular person on YouTube was like, "Oh man, that makes no sense. Like, why would they do a bunch of wizards for Empire? Like, they didn't really know anything." But I'm a little bit of a lore nerd, and in the time in which the old world is set is the reign of Magnus the Pious, or just before Magnus the Pious is crowned Emperor of the Empire. And one of the things Magnus the Pious, the general model, I hope, is famous for is founding or getting his old mate Teclis from across the ocean and founding the colleges of magic. So that would be super exciting. It'll be super interesting if we got Bright Wizards and Jade Wizards and Amber Wizards and like a bunch of different.
Wait, so you're
spells.
expecting models for each of them or different actual rules for that?
It might be a new kit, but if it is Wizards, that's the only, like, if the models that are being made are Wizards, I don't see any other like thing that fits, because the Empire are not notoriously wizardly.
But they can use any law,
Any
right,
spell
in the
laws.
book,
Yeah,
any
yeah,
of the
yeah.
8, which is
But the
like
thing
pretty
is-
cool. That's pretty unique.
What they're missing though is their own kind of law signatures.
Yeah, any
That'd be
special
easy to
rules
pop in.
or anything.
Well, you can just pop in 8 colleges of magic, like signature things. That'd be easy.
Yeah, and
I like that. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like the founding of the, because that's like one of the key points in the dot points of history that we have about the old world, is that the founding of the College of Magic was because Magnus and Teclis realized the only way to combat the hordes of chaos was we need to use magic and use it in conjunction with, the gunpowder and the steel and Sigmar's blessings and whatnot. So that was my little rumor that I heard.
So will there be a second version of Fireball coming out then if there's a fire wizard as the 8? You know what I mean? The 8.
No, it will just be a wizard
So you
with
can have
4
2
versions of Pillar
fireballs
of
and
Fire.
4 pillars of fire, even better.
I'll have
That's what we need
one
in this
wizard
game.
with 4 pillars of fire.
I don't know. And every wizard can take it, right? You don't need a law
Yes.
familiar to guarantee it.
And
It's a
there's no
signature.
cap on wizards. So I'll have 4 or 5 or 3 with a rule of 3 level 4s, all with all of them.
Well, look, Empire would be pretty sick if they made Magic reliable in terms of you can generate some decent spells. You got cheap casters; that'd do a lot for the power. What sort
Yeah,
of level of
very interesting.
confidence are you bringing in these rumors in with? Like,
It's the
give us a
only.
percent-
Sorry.
give us a percentage that we're going to get a journal sometime January-ish. What's your confidence levels?
Confidence on the journal coming out early in the year, I think, is pretty high. Like that's sort of what's been spoken about in circles of people that are relatively close to the sources. Confidence levels in the models being released being what I was just spoke about, 50% maybe. Like, and I think that's quite high.
That's quite high. Okay.
But yeah, because it's the first, like, the people that I've heard talking about it are not people that the people that like to be right and also make their living and their currency off being accurate and having the inside scoop, as it were.
Well, it's all sitting
so
in, like, if it's going to be released on the 1st of January or early January, it's sitting in warehouses somewhere, right? Like, it's already done.
Yeah.
People probably know, right? Whether or not it's been leaked officially, like, people do know.
Yeah, and like this book has been written last year or whatever.
Yeah, last year, exactly.
Well, either way,
that's exciting.
It is coming at some stage, and I'm excited to see it. Let's give those Empire a little bit of a helping hand. They need
a much needed boost, as we might talk about later on.
Yeah, well, is there anything else, Danny, that you'd like to see from the Arcane Journal? Like, just in general, like whether or not that's like a themed force or... I'm sure you've got a massive wish list.
I could wish this forever about this. But literally, at this point, literally anything. And just something unique and something to chew on. Like, it feels... Detachments were Empire's thing for a long time, since forever. And now that's a universal rule. And so it feels like Empire are just like very nothing. And I think I'm in the boat of a lot of people that would love to see infantry make returns somehow. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's like more of just the system and the rules of the game itself. But yeah, keen to see where they go and what they do.
Calling it now, Demigriff Core. I've
hedged my bets, and this current Empire army is Nuln themed. So
I see.
An artillery train, 7 cannons.
Okay, all right. Well, let's find out. Lachie, you had something that you had. It's a bit of news in the old world. What was that?
Yeah, look, very hot off the press. So there's clearly, this we haven't been involved in this. So like, absolutely not claiming this as our own work, but there's been a few guys in the Australian Old World community who are setting up the Australian Masters for next year, kind of, and it seems like next year will be the first season of it. I'm not sure if they've decided if CanCon is going to be the start or end of that season, but I think what they want to do is go back to the old days where they'd have a 12-month cycle, ending ending the season, I suppose, with Masters event. I think it's going to be top 16. I think it's using similar metrics that they did for in 8th edition, which I think was a good system where the bigger the event and the more players and everything, like they've got a complex algorithm to work it out, but the bigger the event, the more rounds there are, you get more points basically, and you get the top 3 or 4 scores. I think it used to be the top 4 back in the day, but it's going to be the top 3 now. And I know that the minimum amount of players you need is 10, which that's so I think 10 and 3 events seems small for now, but I think that's a good amount personally as a bystander who again hasn't been involved in this. I think it's a good idea to keep it small and low barrier, and then you can grow from there in years 2 or 3. Which is really exciting. I think this is a bit of a kickstart that the Australian community needs, I think, particularly outside of Melbourne where there hasn't been any too many events, but that's starting to grow, and these are the kind of things, community driven systems.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Or first, I think you meant inside Melbourne, because I think Melbourne is one of the slowest growing old
Yeah,
world.
we've had bugger all.
Brisbane and Perth
That's what I mean.
miles ahead of us. Yeah. But my question was, and this is to you, Jabe, and you, Lachie, and myself eventually, the idea of rankings, the idea of points, the idea of a masters system. Just high level thoughts. How do you feel about it?
I think it's got to happen. I think it's good for a part of the community. It's not necessarily something that that I want personally, right? If you don't have it, then the people who are competitive don't get a chance to test themselves competitively and measure themselves as much as they'd like. And so therefore they don't perhaps play the game as much as they otherwise would. And the community doesn't develop such a competitive spirit, which is good and bad, because on the side of, if we're not doing rankings, then you go to tournaments, you have a great time. It's all about the Warhammer and the games. But on the downside, if there's a lower player pool available and people aren't looking to go to as many events as they can to get their ranking points up, then we don't have as many games. And so I think you can probably be that fluffy gamer who just loves going and rolling dice and go to the same tournament that people who are really trying to win are going to. And after the first game, then you never see them anyway, and you have a great time. So I think probably ultimately good. As to whether or not,
I think it can go one of two ways, and that would be, it's good because it encourages more people going to events. It's, thinking, oh, I've got to get to that next one to make sure I get points, and you encourage engagement that way. But then the other side of the spectrum is, if the community as a whole, particularly if it's a bit, in its earlier stages, which I think we're still in, you can potentially scare people off because people think maybe trying too hard and running some of the filthier lists. Not saying that is going to happen, but there's always a risk of that, and inevitably, things like comp might be needed to bring people into line, just to even the playing field. Not that I'm advocating necessarily for comp or strict comp, but that's certainly something to think about. But I think it'll be overall positive just to get more events happening and encourage people to actually come along and get people traveling as well. Like if you can get more events, interstate or into regional areas as well, it just encourages it a lot more.
I think the best feature of the website so far, which is oldworldrankings.com.au, by the way. And also, hang on, before I get into that, we should definitely give props to the people that deserve it, that are Angus Sturt Bray, I think, coordinated this thing, a gentleman that I only have heard of as Starkey, and the mastermind behind all of the production and the creation, the building, is Colin Gowdy from our friends at the Old World Fanatics, a fellow nerd podcast. But I think the best feature that they've got so far is on the front page is upcoming events, and it's nationwide, and it's just like you just go to this one website, and all of the events that are going on across all of Australia are just there for you to see.
Well,
I think that's phenomenal.
We definitely need
that. Facebook is a horrible platform to try and organize events in a community.
I've been feeling the sparsity in Melbourne, if I'm honest.
We're behind. We're really behind. Brisbane's got a thriving scene. There's been a massive 2-dayer in Perth already. And they have really regular events. If you just look at the roster of events that is happening, and Vic is underrepresented. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, luckily we have been to an event recently, and we have another one coming up before CanCon. So it's a good segue into kind of what we've been doing, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, that's the focus of today's episode. We went to a 1-dayer a couple of weeks back now. And so we'll talk through that. And then the one that's coming up, Lachie, do you want to give Axmaster a shout?
Yeah, absolutely. So the boys down at Hampton Games Club, should be called Hyatt Games Club now, because it moved to the next suburb over. But yeah, they're running a CanCon warm-up, which will be, my understanding is 2,400 points, similar to CanCon. The rules will be the same, just three games, which is great. So get down and support it. I think they've got 20 spots, and about half of them are full now. So I'm really keen to go do that. So Nick Hohen, the father of lies, is helping run that one as well. And 14th of December, is it? Yeah, there you go. So go sign up to that one. I actually TO'd it 1 year, many years ago. So Axemaster has been around for a long time. So it's great to see back on the scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll be there. Lachie, will you be there?
I'll be there, signed up.
Jabe, will you be there?
I'm contemplating.
Oh, you bugger.
I'm flying up to Vietnam the next day, and so I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I might, even if I don't.
I think you can swing it.
Sleep on the flight.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might just come down and harass people and make a nuisance of myself if I don't end up playing. But yeah, we'll see. You going, Danny?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll be there with
course. Yeah, great. All right, now we're going to talk about the tournament today. But before we do that, everyone's favourite section of the show, boys. What have you been up to in the hobby? Let's talk about that for the next hour or so.
Lachie, you're up. Tell me what shade of blue your ogre's pants are. I'm listening.
So I sent a message to the group the other day saying, "Oh, can we share some images or whatever while we're playing?" And so while we're casting, and no one knows how to do that. Apparently, there's a way, but I
know how to do that.
Of course.
I need to have
we haven't organised it. So obviously, as a visual medium, we're just now going to just describe you.
Right down the bottom, and the button that says "Present." It's right there if you want to do it, but if you don't, that's all cool.
Oh, well, I don't have it all done. No, look, just getting the ogres done. Got them fully painted for the General Games Churnside event a couple of weeks ago, which is really cool. Yeah, just getting that done.
And they look great, might I add.
Thank you. It's really nice to have a fully painted army, of course.
That's something I really respect about you, Lachie. I really like that, is you just do your painting. You get it done. You paint your army, and you enjoy playing with a fully painted army. And there's some people, I won't name names, but there's some people that just, grey ghost here, grey ghost there, undercoat here, prime there, bloody
blue tack,
no effort, no respect, blue tack. Blue tack is one of their mandatory three color minimum.
Black base, white primer, blue tacked on. 3 colors, baby. God. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So you see, Danny, Jabe has already done more hobby in the old world than he did in the entire 8th edition. So, like, I
heard.
Be fair. Like, he's making progress.
That's not fair. That's not fair at all. I did a lot of hobby, just none of it was painting. I did a lot of converting and all that sort of shit.
A lot of scraping.
But different now. I've been enjoying it. I've been loving it. My favourite part at the moment of hobby is basing. Like putting tufts and shit on and like painting little mushrooms and like the boulders in there and then making moss on it and like, I love it. It makes such a difference.
I'm there for it.
Yeah.
And it's fun, right? You're just like, it's dirt. You don't need to like make it look, you don't need to paint in the lines. You're just sticking grass and dirt and it's good.
No, anyway, my boys are looking pretty good. I've been working on them, and at the moment I'm working on converted up models and fillers and all that kind of stuff for a little bit of jazz in the thing. But I'm taking way too long per guy. I'm like painting each of the night goblins like I'm going to a golden demon, only it's a Jabe standard golden demon where it takes hours and hours and hours and hours, but it turns out terribly. But for me, it's a good place, and I'm happy.
Great. I think it looked great.
Yeah,
really nice.
Yeah, well, they're taking a very long time. Not like you, Danny. What's been going on in your world?
Lots. I just got the bug recently again, just before this tournament coming up, and launched into it and painted like 80 state troops in 2 days or something stupid like that, and then proceeded to use them once ever in a game. But yeah, lots of hobby, lots of Empire. Obviously, it's a surprise to absolutely no one. And today I spent the better part of 2 hours meticulously gluing on individual raindrops to my bases.
Oh wow. Okay, that's next level. Yeah, I'm into
So,
racing. Show me up immediately. God.
well,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. It's a bit of an experiment. We'll see if it turns out well-ish. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
Danny, can you paint a word picture of, what did you paint on the side of your steam tank?
That's right. Another little tangent I've gone on with my painting has been freehand and learning to do freehand. And I am like avid lover of Renaissance art. And so I decided to put the Sistine Chapel on the side of a steam tank. And it worked out quite well, actually, the creation of man.
Have you
On one
got
side, and
images?
then
Do you want to figure out the tech of it while we rabbit on about other stuff, and you can see if you can present?
I think I do have images of the steam tank. Yeah, I'll find them for you.
Well,
You,
you
Okay,
you
can
can.
go.
I remember the issue. I think Dave said the issue was with the template that we have. So anyway, we'll just leave that.
Righto.
We'll find out
All right.
because it might just replace me, and that would be great. Anyway, as you were.
We don't.
Give me 5 minutes.
We don't know. We don't know what we're doing with this tech stuff. Hopefully, it's recording. Anyway, we went to this 2-day tournament, 2,000 points, down in General Games Churnside.
1 day,
And
3 games.
1 day, 3 games, 2,000 points. What did I say? Did I say 3 days?
You said 2 days.
2 days. No, it wasn't 2 days. It was definitely not 2 days. And there was 20, 24, only a little one, 20, 24, somewhere.
I think that's
around
good numbers, right? For the first, one of the first events, well, that we've been to, but it was sold out.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. God, they've got a good venue down there.
Mm.
Like it's a game store with like a lot of stock on shelves, not just all Magic the Gathering, and then some tables with some sweet terrain. I don't love the textured mats though. They're not mats, the boards. They make it hard to slide your models over. And other than that, can't fault them. Favorite thing about the tournament though, 11 o'clock start time. Oh, luxury. That's so good. One thing I don't want to do on my day off that I'm going to a tournament is wake up at 6 o'clock to start driving somewhere to get some early games at 8 o'clock before I've had breakfast or something. Love it. Luxury, beautiful. Love it. I would recommend.
Definitely cost me brownie points though, because getting home on the Saturday night at 8:30. But the 11 o'clock was very comfortable to start. That's for sure.
Loved it. It was very well run. I enjoyed that. So, Lachie, do you want to talk us through what it is that you took?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went back and forth a few times with the ogres, trying to find my list. But basically, what I came down to, so we took the level 4 Slaughtermaster on the Fire Magic, Battle Magic, with the Law Familiar and the Ruby Ring Ruin. So he basically is going double Fireball and the Pillar of Fire, which was the main thing. I've got a Bruiser on a Stonehorn, so he's got the War Banner as well. So he's got +3 combat res off the bat, and he's just got the Talisman of Preservation. And he's one of my MVPs. He's very, very good. Recommend Ogre players to try that. Had 6 Iron Guts with the Regen banner. I have started to learn how to use them a bit better. So basically, just running them in a single line rather than in a rank of 4, which makes them a little bit unwieldy. But just because they are so wide, but it's definitely making a big difference into their effectiveness. One of the big weaknesses I think of the ogre list is that we have to pay a tax. You have to take 1 unit of bulls, which are literally useless. So I've got unit of 3 there with a banner, just kind of to bunker the Slaughtermaster in if I need to. I have 2 units of 4 Saber Tusks. They both scout. I quite like those. The units of 4, they definitely recommend them. I have another unit of 2 Saber Tusks. Got a unit of 4 Mournfang Cavalry. They've got the Bull Standard, which means they re-roll their fail to wound rolls. Again, love the Mournfang. They're a very solid unit. No one will be surprised by that. One of my favorite units is my unit of 4 Yetis, so they're scouting. So between them, the 2 units of 4 Saber Tusks, I've got 3 scouting units. Unfortunately, I found out just before the event that that means you actually give up the +1 to the first turn roll, unlike previous editions. So luckily, I think I won all three first turn rolls, even though I was basically at a -1. So, but I'm not sure about the scouts.
I
I
think
do
there's
like
still
it. I do like it, but
I think there's still a little bit of contention out there about it, but rules as written,
mm,
yes, that's the way.
yeah, exactly. Well, until it
Um,
gets FAQ'd, it's that's kind of how I've been playing it, just because I kind of go rules as written, and then finally, yeah, the Iron Blaster I took, and this is where I was debating pretty heavily whether or not I put the Iron Blaster in or not, because I haven't had heaps of success with it. But Jabe, you're one of the ones who convinced me to put it back in, just so I have an option to sit back and shoot a little bit if I need to, rather than going forward as my only game plan. Um, but yeah, definitely over the 3 rounds, I feel like it performed. So yeah, that's my ogre list, 2,000 points.
okay, well, do you want to run us through game one before we move on to Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. So first game was Scott. So I actually played 3 games against 3 different Scots, which was interesting. It's easy to remember their names. No, but Scott number one. I'd played him actually. He was one of my only opponents besides you guys who I'd played before this event. So he was playing vampires. He had, let me just bring up his list quickly. So I've got some notes. He's got an Ogre Blade Vampire Lord on a Zombie Dragon, backed up by 2 Terrorgeist, which was pretty scary, having the 3 flying guys going around, with the level 4 and Mortis engine as well. So there's 3 or 4 big targets, 3 screams. He had the big block of Graveguard with the BSB White Lord in it, a block of zombies, and 2 units of 5 dogs. So probably not, like, it's definitely a strong vampire list, I think. Probably not quite as strong as you can make it, but like definitely you need to respect that with the amount of screams, and like the Graveguard are drilled, so they're obviously very scary. So one of the themes of my games, I think, is that I need to learn to be a bit more balanced on going too wide, because ogres have got poor leadership, of course. So if you go too wide, then failing panic checks or leadership checks, you're going to be off the board pretty quickly. And your leadership's not great. I've got 8 with a reroll if I'm in BSB and general range. So early on, my Mornfang went up
to
to
8.
8. Yeah, it's pretty low.
That's not great. That's human level.
No,
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, I think at 2,400 points is where I put the tyrant in and make sure I get the leadership 9. So that's probably for the CanCon warm up list. We'll have that one. Yeah, look, the first turn or two, I was pretty happy. So my Mornfang took off one of the Terrorgeists on the side. And I thought, basically what happened was I reformed, and it was very close to the board edge. And so I put my unit of Saber Tusks in front of the Graveguard, who are drilled, of course. And I kind of said to Scott, I think I'm safe. You have to go forward. Of course, you've got to go directly forward to get my Saber Tusks. And we agreed that that's what would happen. But unfortunately for me, I positioned my Mornfang on a very slight angle. So what Scott was able to do was redress the ranks with his Graveguard to be super long, as you kind of do, so that when he got the overrun into the Saber Tusks, he just clips the Mornfang, and then so his now block of 10, 15, it was probably more like 15 wide, was able to like nudge the Mornfang and then like do a massive wheel around. I think I had to end up closing the door to him a little bit, so the Mornfang were in trouble. So I've charged in with 4 Yetis to try and salvage it. It wasn't. I thought I was going to get a flank charge. It was just out of the flank charge. Unfortunately, the Yetis whiffed. Mornfang did some work, and they actually held on. They passed their leadership 7 or something. And I was like, oh yeah, great, they're safe. And then he's like, yeah, but you fall back in good order, or give ground, whichever one. But because I was so close to the board edge, I didn't realize that if either of those happen, that you're just dead. So,
Yeah, you had to
you
win
know,
that combat.
yeah. So look, I feel a bit bad because I was definitely a bit salty at Scott, and he messaged me after the event offline to just make sure I was okay, which obviously makes me think, oh, maybe I was definitely too salty. I thought I'd done the right thing in saying, oh, I'm safe. We kind of agreed that we're safe, and then the second time was when I'd passed my leadership check that I thought I was safe again. And so it's obviously feels bad when you guys are just dead after you think that they're safe. So anyway, it's
Yeah,
one of
for
those
sure. No,
things. And it definitely makes me reflect. This is a new game for me, even though that I've played Warhammer, for a long time. This is a new game, and there's going to be these things that keep coming up. So uh, that's just one of my reflections, of course.
I think this whole edition is
Mm,
characterized by higher uncertainty.
mm,
So previously, your blocks are steadfast. Yes, sure, you might fail your leadership check, and the dice are going to happen in combat and all that kind of stuff. But you can basically, where things are going to end up. And in this one, you don't. You don't know if you're going to give ground. You don't know if you're going to fall back in good order. You don't know if they're going to be able to follow up and contact if you do fall back in good order. And then drilled changes all the mechanics and all of the angles. There's like high uncertainty, and it's like it's a lot
yeah,
harder to figure out what's actually going to happen.
I agree. It's hard to plan for, and I think that I've just got to get more used to not being able to plan for things and just seeing where things lie.
or maybe it's just like doing more planning. Like lean into, okay, if I fall back in good order 6 inches, this is exactly what's going to happen. Or I'm most likely to lose this combat. I'm most likely to fall back in good order. Therefore, I'm going to pop through this unit that I've put behind, and and plan accordingly. Or you can do what I think is probably how I'm going to approach things, which is like you're saying, more of a reactive play style. Make decisions that seem good at the moment, and this is why I'm bad at Warhammer. But the planning ahead is not my
What?
strong suit. So
Yeah, it's tricky. So, I mean, that was like, a big moment of that game. One of the other moments was, so his vampire lord basically just went through my Stonehorn. I thought it'd take him a little bit longer to get through the Stonehorn because he's got Stonehorn special rule is for multiple wounds attacks, you -1 to the amount of wounds. So if you roll 3, it becomes 2. But I think, his dice in the first round of attacks, I think he popped like 5 wounds or something into the Stonehorn, even through that, which means there's just like less turns. Luckily, near the end, I was able to take off his Morse engine, so my Iron Blaster did, I think, maybe did 4 wounds to it. The Iron Guts got into it in the last turn, got a lucky reform after, and this is where again the uncertainty comes in, and it probably favoured me. The Iron Guts had been grinding through a bunch of zombies for a few turns, and then pushed the zombies back far enough, and then was able to reform because enough of the Iron Guts had died, and then get a charge into the Mortis engine. And because the Mortis engine had 4 wounds left, I was able to take it off in the last turn, which brought it back to, it would have been 11-9 loss to me, which I would have been happy about. But of course, it's win-loss draw for this event, so didn't count for much. But it was a small win for me.
Play like that anyway, though. Good to practice that method.
Okay, so learnings from that game for you, things you want to carry forward?
Yeah, I think the Iron Blast is good. It's because it gives me that range threat into things like the Mortis engine, which you really need to get through. I think, just being a little bit more careful around where you place your units on the side. I like to try and go around, get around the side of units and kind of run more units than other people run less units. I like a more MSU approach, but when all your units are really wide because you're running a unit of 6 Iron Guts 6 wide, then you've got your 4 Morn Fang, you've got 4 Yetis and things like that. That's a very wide footprint, and so naturally you are going to go a bit wider. But then you're at risk of just running off the board edge. So that's definitely one thing. One other thing I learned just very quickly is stupidity works very differently in this game than it has in previous editions.
Yeah.
It's basically you just have to move forward. That could be 0.1 of an inch forward. So you don't have to go your full distance, but more importantly is that you can actually cast your spells or shoot, which, was another thing which I was like, oh yeah, great. He's failed his stupidity check on his Mortis engine, and it's like, actually no, I can still cast all my spells and raise all my undead and do whatever I want. So
Stupidity doesn't really matter that much
no,
anymore. Like, it depends on what it's on, I suppose. But
if it's
on
no,
brilliant things, it's not so much of a problem.
no,
Yeah.
which is interesting. So anyway, there's a few learnings.
Yeah.
It was good though. Scott's a good guy, and yeah, hope I play him again soon.
Danny.
My game 1 of the event.
What did you take, mate?
Oh, Empire. That's surprising. I am not sure if I even have the list that I had brought still saved. But it was a pretty stock standard Empire list. We had three cannons, general on Demigriff with Grandmaster on Demigriff to be a bit more chubby with a 2-up, 5-up, and the Laurels of Victory, which I was trying out this tournament, which doubles each wound that he does, doubles the combat res of. Interesting, not particularly worth it, I don't think, on an Empire character, but
How many points is it?
40 points.
Awesome. Okay.
It's enough. It's enough to mean that you can't take some other stuff, which
Yeah.
and then
what are you getting that over like a multi-wound weapon, right?
Well, what you can do if you don't want a ward save is take a multi-wound weapon and
double down,
and then you do 4 wounds and you do 8 combat.
What multi-wound weapon can you take with that? Because you can't stack 40 with 65.
Giant's Blade is multi-wound 2.
Piece of shit. No way. Piece of shit.
Sort of justice.
What's that?
Strength as user, AP 1, I believe. Multiple wounds 2, magical attacks, armor bane 1, and rerolls to wound.
All the rerolls to wound? Because you're only strength 4, right?
Yeah, mitigates the strength 4. Or it might be strength +1. It's I think better. It's definitely better than the Giant's Blade, but I think it's like almost more reliable than the Ogre Blade.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
But it's the low strength of Empire characters. Anyway, sorry?
But you didn't do that. You took the Talisman of Preservation and your Laurels.
White Cloak, slightly better one. Yeah, that's right. 2 level 4s. We had level 4 on the both on Pegasi, one on Elementalism, and then the ubiquitous we need a shorthand for this. Level 4 Battle Magic, Lore Familiar, Ruby Ring of Ruin. Like we need to what's that called? You know what I mean?
Fire guy.
Battle Maid.
No, it's Fire Guy. We've just decided it's Fire Guy.
It's done.
Those 2, and then the core, the best of a bad bunch in core being a big unit of knights, a small unit of knights, and some scouting archers. And I had some demigriffs in special as well.
A couple of engineers.
Just the one engineer. Yeah, just the one engineer.
Did he have the grenade?
Grenade launching blunderbuss? No, he didn't in this tournament, and I wish he did.
Okay.
Yeah, so just like another iteration of the Empire list, and I think because I hang out with you guys all the time and I play against you guys, and you're all quite good at Warhammer, I have very high expectations of myself, but I'm bad at Warhammer.
That makes you even worse because we're really not that good.
Well, not bad. But I played Chris in the first game. Chris was running. Chris, I'm not sure of his last name. You know him, Lucky.
Tomb
Kings? Yeah, Penwarden from back in the day.
Chris Penwarden.
He was
on Tomb Kings.
Stalwart of 8th edition, yeah.
He was running, I think he was running just a Grand Army Tomb Kings list. Because he had 1 casket, 1 Screaming Skull catapult, a massive unit of Graveguard, a massive unit of skeletons, some Shabti hand weapon, like great weapon of Shabti, a couple of scorpions, and some carrion. I think that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't like no dragon and no double casket and like all these things that I sort of, or no double screaming skull catapult. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting and strange. And we had a really close and really tight game up to a point, which is the way it goes. So he being mostly infantry, mitigated by reserve move and stuff like that, but that's magic dependent, just started marching up at me, and I managed to out deployed him relatively convincingly. I managed to save my fire guy to whack out on the flank, and fire guy is great. Fire guy standing next to a unit of knights, protecting him, giving him lone character. Really, really good, because Fire Guy also has Arcane Urgency. And when you have drilled knights and Arcane Urgency, you can go miles. You can do whatever you want. But Fire Guy just took off a Tomb Scorpion a turn, basically, just pew-pew and stuff, because he was out of dispel range. All the Tomb King stuff was centered over on one flank with the big infantry blocks. And so I had the quick knights and fire guy doing their things up one flank, taking out the carrion, taking out the Tomb Scorpions. Cannons doing average, as they tend to be in this edition.
What were the cannons targeting?
He didn't have a whole lot of stuff, so I think I tried to. I had to split them up. I put 2 with the engineer and then 1 across the other side, just because I didn't get the hill. He got the hill for the blue. Sorry. And I was going for his artillery to the casket and the screaming skull catapult, and then targets of opportunity as well, like the Ashanti when they turned flank on. And it was all going relatively smoothly, and I managed to wrangle my my Arcane Urgency drilled knights through a million charge arcs, reforming every which way, going the whole board, to be in a prime position, nicely set up behind his whole army, nothing in, no arcs, not in line of sight of anything realistically, facing his casket, and just outside of my move distance, I think. So basically an almost unfailable charge, which I proceeded to fail. And he had
triple ones or something.
A 2 and then 2 1s, I think. Yeah, horrible. And he turned his 1 unit of Ashanti around just to make sure that I didn't do too much damage. And then so they got tangled up and they moved in, and the knights. Oh, and then he got off. And my other drilled knights were a very few inches away from his screaming skull catapult. Turned to my turn 2, or his turn 2. I was very excited about, and he got off the necromancy spell. Is it? Unquiet
the one where you
spirits?
take a leadership test?
No, 2d6 strength 2. I'm only toughness 3.
No armor.
No armor saves.
Mm.
And just picked up a unit of knights. And I was like, yep, that's what happens. That's what happens. And so yeah, so that dispel that I didn't get, and then the charge that I failed, were relatively like big moments. I thought I was in a strong-ish position at the start of that game. But then obviously, and his infantry just kept coming closer and closer to my lines. I put the demis at the back in between the cannons and the general to just wait, make him come to me. And then nothing went as well as I'd planned on the flanks and up the back. So he was circling for the kill, basically. And I had a genius plan, which was he had just moved into charge range. I held him up 1 turn with some archers of the cannons or my demis or whatever with his infantry, his massive block of 1 million combat res. You're never going to kill it. I have a Tomb King in it, etc. Yada yada yada, all of that. And that was when I reread the spell card for Travel Mystical Pathways, and I was like, oh boy, if I cast this and just pop my demigryphs behind you or anywhere outside of your charge arcs, you're going to do nothing for the rest of the game. You're going to have to charge maybe at 1 cannon, turn around, come back the other way, and I'm faster than you, so you'll never catch me. I was like, this is great. And then I failed to cast it on double ones.
So beyond getting new dice and learning how to roll,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I could always plan better. That game I wasn't too upset with. I thought we had a really, really tight game that he just got on top and then used his momentum well, basically. But I was really happy with that game. And Chris is a good player. It seemed like he was a good player. Knew his army really well. Had a really good looking army, and was a gentleman. So if you're listening, Chris, thanks for the game. Yeah.
Any,
Oh, by the way, I've got the pictures of that steam tank. If you want.
Yeah, put them up.
Yeah. Tell me if this is working. I'm going to share my screen. I don't have two monitors, so I won't be able to see. Window. Oh my god, it gives you options of what to share. Excellent. All right. Can you see that?
No.
But I can add it to the stage. Here we go.
Should
It's
just be a
an
picture of the
icon of
dollars.
us.
Yeah, but if I do this,
Hey, there we go. That is hot.
So this is it. This is the steam tank.
So the people who aren't watching this on the YouTubes, pretty good model.
Right.
Might be worth jumping onto the YouTubes and having a look. We're about 45 minutes into the cast for those of you looking at it.
Timestamp it. Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll just run through these pictures real quick, and then we'll get back to the important stuff, the games.
Yeah.
So this is the guy. This is the other side, which is Saturn Devours His Son by the French painter. What's his name? Lachie?
Oh, I don't know.
No
idea.
Yuval, someone?
Some famous artist.
Anyway, I had a lot of fun doing that. That was a request from Nicholas, the father of lies, killing.
Francisco Goya?
Goya, that's right. Very famous painting. I should be ashamed of not remembering that. And then the one that started it all was this, which is the.
It's insane. So also some context. So Danny put this photo up of the Sistine Chapel and said, "What should I paint on the other side?" And then there was a few suggestions, and literally within 2 hours, he'd done the other side.
I've done a sketch of the other side.
Nah, dude, you are just pushing your limits. It was really good to see.
It's what happens when you spend far too much time painting silly models. But it turned out quite all right.
Mate, fuck. Oh god, sort of stuff we can only aspire to, but never actually achieve. That's pretty great.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop sharing that. We'll get back to the important stuff.
Yeah.
All
right.
There we go.
And so, anything that you learnt from that you haven't talked out already?
The few takeaways from that, I guess, the fire guy, phenomenal. Fire guy on a fast mount is just like the output is awesome, and it just deletes a unit of chaff or whatever you need. And having two level 4s, like having dedicated level 4s for dispelling, and then another one for casting, or like being out on a flank outside of dispel range is super powerful. So that's really good.
Yeah.
Every time I use drilled knights, I just love them. Drilled is such a good rule. You can do so much stuff. I'm just scratching the surface. Doing these like long moves and stuff. It's just scratching the surface. Like once you start putting characters in the unit, they can go in the back ranks. That's fine. And then you can, if you want to leave them in the back, you can't do anything with them when in the back. That's fine. But then you drill before you move into super wide, and you can put them like left or right. You can change the position of characters so much.
True. I hadn't even thought of that one.
Like there's so much you can do. There's so many little fun things. And with the rules of the rule is called like the ends of the world, where you can drift, like you can swing the back of your unit through other units or models or terrain. It doesn't matter because they're not assumed to be following that exact path. Is phenomenal. You can do some crazy stuff.
And here's the question, right? That probably needs an FAQ. It's like, what's the wording? Something like the back corner can go through other units, but what qualifies as a back corner? Is that like literally the corner, like an inch or something, or is that
how much of it?
All
of the back,
exactly.
All of the back one side is the corner.
Anything that is not the front.
Yeah, anything that is not the front.
Yeah,
so it's really flexible. It's really good. And then there wasn't a lot. I think I played relatively well. I can always work on my deployment, but that's system agnostic. That's just
So how did it end up?
a Warhammer problem. He won pretty convincingly in the end. There could have been like there was a couple of things that could have swung it a bit. It could have been quite a tight game, but I think he won something like 12-8.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Cool.
Nice.
Jabe,
All
what'd
right.
you run?
So I took my Filthy Orcs. I love them so much. God, it's a great book. There's so much depth to it.
It is.
So I took the Wyvern, the Black Orc with the 2 up, 5 up, 5 up, great weapon guy. And he again is the standout champ of the list. He never disappoints. He's never died yet in all the games I've played.
Not once.
Not once. He survives a lot on like 1 or 2 wounds. And even then, just throw the fucker in and he does work. He's so good. Anyway, I had him and then my
How many points?
guy,
Sorry?
341.
Disgusting.
Yeah, don't be jealous. Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, you should be. Then I had Fire Guy. Fire Guy happened to be an orc on a boar because one of the things that I learnt about a month before the tournament was that it's not the same as other editions. They don't have to share the same base size being in a unit to benefit from Lookout Sir. So you can have your...
Or unit type, right?
Unit type doesn't matter either, yeah. So you can have cavalry in... the unit type's the bit that matters. You can have cavalry in infantry, Lookout Sir. You can have your light chariot in infantry, Lookout Sir. So long as there's 5 models, I think it's
rank of file models,
5 unit strength, it's models. And so that's cool. So I ran him on a boar, and the plan was basically he can either hang out in proximity to the boar boys, and then he benefits from their Lookout Sir if he's close enough, or he's sticking him with the Black Orcs and he gets his +1 to cast. In retrospect, I think I would probably just run him on foot, because if they've got shooting, then once you've committed to putting him in the Black Orcs and they've got magic missiles and stuff, you can't take him out. And so he's locked in and he loses his mobility, which is the whole reason for putting him on the boar anyway, because he's easily
Fire Guy is best at mobile. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so no.
Why can't you take him out? What do you mean by that?
Because if I take him out and they've got just a ruby ring or a fireball or something, then he's naked. And so he's easy to kill, and he can't, unless he can hide behind a building or something, then how are you escaping it? Because you can't just sit 3 inches away from your infantry and be protected. So you're in the unit or you're not. And then if it's more than his movement away from any other cav, and there's nothing to protect him with. Yeah, so I found that just a little limiting, and I think he'd probably be better just run on foot, save a whopping 16 points. Anyway, so Fire Guy and Elementalism Dude. And Elementalism Dude's the goblin on a wolf, because same reasons again. But I think the wolf is good because of the extra movement. Gives him 18 inches, same as your Pegasus type stuff. Like just ridiculous mobility is pretty good. So Fire Guy had the Fire Guy's got what Fire Guy's got. He's got the Law Familiar and the ruby. He didn't have the ruby ring. Anyway. Then I also had a naked
Fireboy
Fireboy. Yeah, only a little one, because the ruby ring went to my naked, otherwise Night Goblin BSB, who is there just to hang out behind units and give her re-rolls and then shoot off the ruby ring, and then a hopper. A little hopper guy who's just cheap, 65 points, hopper boss. He's got his killing blow, squig and whatnot. Anyway, the list had 15 Black Orcs, a variety of great weapons and shields. They had the War Banner. I find that in the games that I've had, they never fight. And so putting the Raggedy Flag on them just seems like, well, they don't need weapon skill 5 instead of 4 if they never fight.
The job's just to mop up things, right, rather than be frontline.
I'm not even sure that it is that. Like, I've got reflections on the list. They don't do anything.
Your opponents are all too busy frantically trying to deal with a bunch of stupid fucking fanatics and boars and wyverns and everything coming at you all at once. That it doesn't matter. There's a bunch of Black Orcs in the back, whatever.
Yeah, I've kind of come to the
Right.
same conclusion, although they are a +1 caster buff for the mages, which is pretty good. But that could be cheaper other orcs. Anyway, I digress. So you got to take 5 if you're going to take the Wyvern. So by the time you take 5's not really that useful. Now do you try and do something with them? Anyway, a discussion for later or another time. We might make an episode about orcs and list writing and stuff. I think it might be time for us to do a book review. So the Black Orcs, then a unit of 30 Night Goblins, 3 Fanatics, full command. And then 20 Night Goblins, 2 Fanatics, and otherwise naked. Then 8 Boar Boy Biggins with all the trimmings, no magic banner, but other than that, fully kitted. Then 2 units of 5 Squig Hoppers, naked, nothing on them. And a couple of Doom Divers and a Spear Thrower. So, like, pretty filthy, pretty good list. And then round 1, I matched up against Scott, who's probably Scott 2. Wasn't Scott 1, obviously, because you were playing Scott 1. So he's probably Scott 2 or 3. I'm not sure
Scott
which of your
3,
Scott
I
2
think.
is. So Warriors of Chaos.
Oh, no,
And
Scott 2. Yeah, okay. Cool.
so Scott was there to roll dice and have a good time, and poor Scott got matched up against filthy Jabe and his army of doom. And so I felt bad about that. But Scott is probably one of the most fun people to play Warhammer with that I've ever played with. He was a super nice guy. He ended up getting my best sports. And so he had warriors. And so he had a Warpfire Dragon, was the only dragon that he bought. Then a Lord on a Chaos Demonic Mount. And then he was sitting in with, I think it was Chosen, but it might have been Knights. Doesn't matter. I shot him off anyway. And then a couple of units of Marauders, like 20 each. One of them was a Zinch bunker for the level 4. Didn't have any of the filthy shit on the level 4, like the best item in the game. What's the Infernal Puppet?
Infernal Puppet.
Oh, my God. Didn't have any of that bullshit. Then, his other unit of Zinch, he had a 5-pack of Knights. I think they might have been the Khorne. Can't really remember.
Two units of 5 corn, which is frenzied knights.
Yeah, there wasn't another one. And then some dragon ogres. There might have been 4, might have been 3, something like that. And that's all I really recall of that one. Anyway, what basically happened on this one was I kind of got him on deployment, I think. And so I ended up with a hill in this game, and Doom Divers both went on that, and the army basically clustered, on the right side. I played essentially refused flank with my Boar Boys on the left, and so he lined his good shit up against the Boar Boys, or at least his Lord, and his and his Dragon Ogres. And then I just Arcane Urgency'd them right all the way away. And then so he wasn't going to see them for a while. And so I waited a little bit until his Dragon Ogres come in and then charge them out. But what ended up happening was I shot stuff with the Doom Divers. They didn't really do that much for a while. Ended up taking off some Knights, which was cool. But then the Wyvern got out on his flanks and deleted some Knights just in a turn, reformed. And now he's looking up his whole line of his entire army. And so the Squeak Hopper was there with him as well. And then we went into the Warpfire Dragon, and then the Warpfire Dragon didn't die, but broke, and then ran through his entire army through the whole way. And then for some reason died. No, it didn't. It ran a while, and then some other stuff panicked from it. His level 4 in the Marauders, and then they ran through the entire board. So his caster was right on the edge next to a building, and it was like fucking terrible for him. And then the Warpfire Dragon exploded, killed a bunch of his knights in the Lord, took wounds off his. There was some Forsaken in there as well, and I think I might have fireballed them or something. I don't know. And so this guy had the worst luck. It was terrible. So he deleted his own army in large part, and then the level 4 in his Zinch bunker ended up in a convenient charge range from my squig hoppers, who hopped on in and took out the Lord,
No,
leaving
sorry,
him with.
no,
5 squig
not in
hoppers for
charge
60
range.
points or
Not in
something.
charge range.
Well, they're not
They weren't in
charging.
charge range. There's
They
not a
were in-
stupid charge. It's a stupid goddamn random movement.
Yeah, which turns into a charge after you contact Danny.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah. So they deleted the level 4, and then his Lord had 1 or 2 wounds left, and I think a single knight that he was cowering with. The Dragon Ogres got charged by the Boar Boys. The Boar Boys took him off, and all his other stuff was dead. And at that point, we called it. And he was like the funnest guy to play with. And I'm sure it was a bit fun for me because I'm like, oh, everything's working. The Fanatics didn't even get released, but it was a case of bad luck and those things that you can't control for, like what direction something's going to flee, and everything else starts fleeing from that and then exploding. It's like, yeah.
If you really work it right, Jabe,
Yeah.
you think you could get something to flee through their whole army to there, and then the next thing you charge flees through their whole army one step closer. So
And
then
goes off
the
the
next
board.
unit flees so far through their army that it goes off the board. With enough units in a line and a big enough base of whatever's fleeing, what's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That'd be amazing. You just like chain them all off and they eventually just start all rolling off the end of the board. It's like a snowball of, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, but no, because you can't control the game that well. But anyway.
So that was 20 NO, and that was
it's win, loss, draw, and that we just
Yeah.
called it. But yeah, it would have been a tabling if we bothered to play the rest of the turns out. And so in terms of learnings from that one, roll better dice, Scott. Like, man,
I'm not sure that dice would help in this matchup. Can I say, knowing the two lists, like honestly.
Yeah, no, he brought a fun list, and like he brought a wooden sword, and I brought a fucking bazooka. We had a great time, and so that was good fun. And so then anyway, we'll move on to the next one. So we had lunch, and then I'll do my game too because I was up against Chris Penwarden with his Tomb Kings, and I'd not played Tomb Kings before. And the bit that you left out, Danny, was it you? Yeah, it was you. The bit you left out was all of the leadership debuff stuff, and so necromancy.
Oh yeah, he didn't really get that off against me. One turn he did, but that's what that list does.
Yeah, and the Tomb Guard was a unit that you're never supposed to fight. So by the time
don't go near them.
Yeah, Tomb King, and I think there was another character in there, and it was just like
3 characters in it. Yeah,
don't fucking touch it.
No.
And I am impressed at Chris that he managed to make infantry work. He didn't take all the filthy stuff, and it was a great list to play against. And
to be fair, undead infantry is good. Like the undead infantry,
drilled reserve move.
And with the banner that makes them not have to move, they don't have to give ground, they don't have to fall, they just don't.
Yeah, phalanx.
And then they get rezzed up to 7 a turn. So like in undead infantry, really good.
Yeah, anything you can make undead infantry hard by taking all of the other good shit, and he didn't. He resisted that. And Chris has done this over the years. Actually, he used to play orcs, and you'd actually see just regular orcs instead of like I was running my savage biggins, a block of 40 of them for the horde, and he'd be rocking around with his. Anyway, he still managed to pop out wins all the time. So he's a great player, knows his shit, like a memory that's fucking like a steel trap. Yeah, good. So anyway. What happened on this one was I didn't get a hill, so the Doom Divers couldn't really, fly in all of their glory. But I did the similar sort of thing, almost a refused flank. I put the Boar Boys off on the left and the rest of the army kind of on the right side and toward the middle. I think I had the Elemental Caster on the left with the Squig Hopper boss as well. And so his Tomb Guard went towards the Boar Boys. And I think he had a unit of, I think it was a Shabti that went over there and a Tomb Scorpion. And there might have been something else. And then the ball boys just cast travel mystical pathways, or they had it cast on their Morgan, and just jumped out of the charge arcs of everything. And so for 3 turns or so, like that half of his army that does stuff and wants to get into combat, just kind of like, chased them around. And then the caster, after it was time that the ball boys could no longer do their thing, buggered off and went back to the other side, which was kind of great. And so they ended up being a 200-point distraction. I misplayed them a couple of times. I probably should have charged them at some stages. So I learned a little bit there. He was casting Spirit Leech and the vortexes and all that kind of stuff. And then he got unlucky sometimes. His stuff, he just failed to cast and delete the ball boys. So he got tied up. So he got done by his dice as well, which wasn't good. Anyway, on the other side, we got a unit of Carrion coming in, threatening, I think, my Bolt Thrower. No, it might have even been a Doom Diver. And I got a little bit scared of them and like tried to put a bunch of stuff into them, took them off. That was great. And then he had a Tomb Scorpion who's sitting on the right side, scouting up, obviously, ready to go into the Doom Diver. I did not like that. And so I put a lot of stuff over there to deal with that. I'm throwing fireballs at it. I'm firing Doom Divers at it. I'm doing everything I can to do it. I couldn't touch the fucking thing. So that guy was annoying. And then eventually I got the Squeak Hopper boss was on that side, actually. There was just Squeaks on the other side. I got the Squeak Hopper boss into it, and he took the Squeak Hopper boss off, which was no good. And we had a little bit of a rules contention thing here, which I'll be after some thoughts on, because random movement and everything's not entirely clear. So he had his Tomb Scorpion sitting off behind a low linear object, and I'm in air quotes charging with my Squeak Hopper, and the Squeak Hopper should take the most direct line if it's a regular moving unit, but it's not. And so it's a random movement. So you move the random movement, and at the point they contact, they charge, right? And so I could clip on the very corner, and because it's only a single model, maximizing is anywhere there, because you don't have to be in contact with two models to maximize, because you've got to bring as many units into combat as you can, right? So there's only a single unit trying to get into combat with a single unit. And my contention was that I can clip the corner and I don't have to go the most direct route because I'm a random mover, and I'm not actually charging until I make contact. And what that meant, if I could do that, and he allowed me it, but I still would like to know if it's right, was that I didn't have to go over the low linear object and suffer the penalties for that. And it might have just been the -1 movement that might have disallowed my charge.
It sounds right as long as you're following the other rules of, I think they errata it that you can't, like if you start in someone's front, you can't go like, do a hook turn into someone's flank or something like that.
None of that. But essentially it's, can random movers charge without having to take the most direct line? I.e., do they do their random movement and then happen to be in contact and therefore have charged and otherwise need to maximize? Or do they need to, if they are going to end up in contact and charging, do they need to take the most direct line? And so that was our thing.
Sounds like a question for the FAQC.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the Wyvern boss charged some Ushabti and then took them off. I think that happened. Or I might have shot them with some Doom Divers or something. I don't know. Deleted those guys. Then the Squeak Hoppers, I think, either failed to get in with the Tomb Scorpion on the same charge. I think they failed to get in. And then what that meant was the Tomb Scorpion won. And at this point, the Wyvern had taken a bunch of wounds. He might have, I don't know, it might have been 3 or 4 from the Light of Death or whatever the leadership one was, where, anyway, respect the casket. Respect it. That thing can put out a lot of damage. And so
the kicker with the casket is that it explodes when you kill it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of.
You're like, oh, thank God it's gone. Wait a minute.
Yeah. So The Screaming Skull Catapult, I think, actually might have pipped something off the Wyvern boss. He couldn't make a ward save to save himself. He was failing 5 up, 5 up, 5 up, and then failed it 2 or 3 times. Anyway, so he got his Tomb Scorpion into the back of the Wyvern because I was like, the Squigs and the Squig Hopper are surely going to take out this fucking Tomb Scorpion. It'll be fine. He beat them, charged me in the rear, got his killing blow off, and then I passed a ward. Oh, and so the Wyvern survived there, but beat the snot out of him, and then that
It must be the most deflating feeling, right? Landing the big 6 and just actually doesn't matter.
There's no
Especially when it's only a 5-up ward. It's not even a 4-up. It's like
yeah. It must have been frustrating for him. But to be fair, he did fail every other roll he'd made, so he was probably due one. Anyway, then he lined himself up to get on into the casket, hiding behind the building, I think. Anyway, so he could make a charge on there, and then we had another little kind of.
So hang on, I came over and had a look at this, and you guys were like, it was very tense. You guys measuring this out to measure whether or not your Wyvern had line of sight around this building, and obviously, like, you guys decided or came to agreement that he was just in, but that could have definitely gone either way, and that's probably what ended up getting you the game.
Definitely. So what basically happened there was a couple of things. First, I didn't realise that flying units could fly over buildings. Kind of obvious when you think about it. And so I didn't have to have a massive wheel. I just had to have line of sight past the building, and then I could fly over the rest of it. And so that was a learning for me. And then the Wyvern ended up needing I think it was a 14 to get in, and I rolled a 14, and then we were measuring, and it was kind of like, like that kind of like 0.1, 0.2 of an inch type thing. And it depends on how much the wheel is. The wheel was only probably, I don't know, 30 degrees or something. And how much does that add to your straight line? And it was kind of, it was really
the
close.
wheel calculator app out.
We tried that.
Is there one? Is that real?
Yeah, there is.
It's just like trig. It's just a maths thing that it'll tell you.
Yeah.
Like, you put in the size of the base, the size of the unit, how far you want to wheel, and you put in any amount of the variables, and it will give you the other ones.
Well, we would have needed a protractor to figure out what the angle was and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
yeah, but it's much better than getting your tape measure and going, is that one?
Yeah, well, anyway, it was a very small wheel. It's probably only 30 degrees or 40 degrees or something like that. Maybe even less. Then anyway, Chris ended up giving it to me, which meant the boss went into, sorry, my bad, it wasn't the casket, it was the Screaming Skull Catapult, I believe. Took that off and then overran into the casket, and then took that off, and then that exploded and didn't kill any of the rest of my stuff. And at this point, the Wyvern's still only on like 1 or 2 wounds, right? I can't remember, it was 1 or 2. Anyway, on the other side of the board is Tomb Guard finally dealt with the Boar Boys, and then tried to march their way over, and then we ran out of time. But realistically, all that was going to happen from there is I'm just going to run everything away because I don't want to touch those with a 10-foot barge pole, and that was that. And so it ended up with a very, very close win to me. It was like an 11-9 by like 17 points or something. So like 117 points, 167 or whatever it was. That it was just very, very small win. Yeah. And if things had gone differently for any of the rest of it, it would have been a very different outcome. And so things I learned from that is that reserve move on the Tomb King with the extra move distance, making them move 5, means that they are incredibly mobile and can go a very, very long way. Respect necromancy and the leadership magic, and respect the casket. And if he'd taken more of the filthy stuff, he would have wiped the floor with me. So that was good to have had my first game against Tomb Kings. And if I liked the fluff of them a little more, then I reckon I'd be very tempted to make an army of theirs because there's so much depth to it. The list is so good.
So you guys have both had a bunch of artillery against this list. What's the casket like in terms of stat wise, like taking cannons to the face or doom divers to the face? Is that worth doing it?
I can't remember. I think he managed to position it so that it was indirect fire for
Mm.
me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I only had line of sight from 2 cannons to it. In a like you should be able to take it off with a couple of cannons. There's
Yeah.
something. It has a ward save, I think, or the regen or something. It's undead. It has the 5-up regen.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
5-up regen. I don't think it's got a whole bunch of extra toughness and stuff, but I'm just gonna bring it up and
doesn't matter
and
for
find it out.
strength 10 cannons.
Well, no, it doesn't matter for them. But in terms of for me, I was only strength 8. No, it's only tough 6. So
Yeah, three
tough
three
6,
wounds,
4
5-up
wounds,
ward,
4
4
wounds.
wounds.
It's
4
got
So
wounds.
regen.
That's fine.
should take 2 cannons to get to it. Maybe
Yeah.
3 if they hit a ward save. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's got
3
a
if you ward
36
save, and depending on your bounces and your artillery and stuff. So if you've got a couple of engineers or an engineer on both cannons, then yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Cool.
yeah, so that was a good game. It could have gone either way. So I was lucky to walk away with that one, if I'm being honest. And so that was my game too. Danny, still yours.
No, let's go back around to Lachie, who started
No, I
us
want
all up.
to bounce around like that, but sure, go Lucky.
We're circling. It's centrifugal force here.
No, all good. My one, this one should be well, a little bit straightforward because so Scott 2, which is the Warriors of Chaos.
Scott
So
2.
James
Scott 1,
already
Scott 2, Scott 3.
kind of talked about his list. As we say, it was a bit of a fluffy list. Uh, it's just the frenzy on the 2 units of knights and the Chaos Lord. It makes it really hard for him to get the charges
And
that
the
he
Lord.
needs.
Oof.
Yeah, so and they're only just Chaos Knights. So I learned so it was the first time I've actually played against Chaos Warriors, and I knew what the filthy stuff were in theory, and I knew that he did not have any of it. But yeah, so learning that the Chaos Knights only have a 3-up armor save is not good because
Yeah.
my fire guy was casting some fireballs and taking off a couple of knights a turn, and when he's got only 2 units of 5, like they're going down pretty quickly. But yeah, so my Stonehorn BSB was on a flank, kind of went, I made sure I could get a unit of knights charged by the BSB. So he went through them, then he went through a block of Marauders and the Forsaken as well with the BSB with the level 4 in there. My Iron Blast, I think, did 4 wounds to his Chaos Dragon. The dragon then charged into my Iron Guts, which was probably not the smartest call, but then the Iron Guts just chopped him up. The other unit of knights with the Lord, I whittled them down. Then they got a long charge into my Mournfang, but then it took them the rest of the game to get the Mournfang. I think it was pretty funny. The Chaos Lord had a few rolls on, and I think he was re-rolling them as well, the results on the Eye of the Gods table. So he had, by the end of it, he had like maybe 9 attacks or something like that. But it's still, he wasn't quite blending through the Mournfang fast enough. Because I was just hitting a few extra 5-up armor saves than you'd probably expect, and then holding on their leadership. So he did eventually get them, but it meant that the Chaos Lord was, and I killed the knights around him. So then the Chaos Lord it took him out of the game for the rest of the game. I got everything else. The Yetis went through another unit of Marauders. So it was definitely. I'm not sure if it was quite a 20 as he got the Mournfang, but it was pretty close to it if you're running a 1,500 point differential for the 20O.
And that marked a pretty special occasion for you, Lachie, I think.
It was, yeah. Look, that was my first win in Old World, so I was pretty happy with that. First win with the Ogres. So that was probably game number 8 or 9, I reckon.
Hard slog.
Yeah, it was pretty special. So no, it's good. And I think obviously Scott 2's list was a bit fluffy, but finally I found an Ogre's list that kind of like, I don't think it's like top tier or anything, but it's starting to work for me. And I kind of know what its strengths and weaknesses are and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my game too.
Congrats, bro. Anything you learned?
Don't take marauders. Don't take frenzied knights. They're probably a couple of things to think about. Again, that this one demonstrated that the Iron Blast is definitely getting some value because it had there was some good targets for it. Fire Guy was just really good. Just chipping away knights. Definitely
There's a
recommend
few
him.
things like that. What do we call the there's another one. There's Fire Guy, which everyone has always. There's also another thing that everyone has always, which is your BSB on a big mount that's quite mobile, hard to kill, and has a war banner. A +3 combat res BSB.
He's
What
really
do we call it?
good. I
Yeah, what do we
definitely
call it? Because
will.
everyone does that. High elves do it on the Griffin. Empire can
Do
do it
they?
on the Griffin. Like, there's so many
Flag
people that do that. I
Flag
have
Guy?
+3
I
combat
don't know.
res. Flag guy?
Uh,
Flag guy is a good one.
BSB.
Flag guy sounds better.
He's always got a different setup depending army to army, but yeah. Anyway. All right.
Cool.
So that was that for you. Danny, talk us through game 2. Did you have a Scott?
I didn't have a Scott. I think I've been racking my brain for the last 5 minutes trying to remember this gentleman's name because he was very handsome and very nice. And I don't remember it. So I think it starts with a J. Jason? Jacob? Could be. I just went to the I couldn't find the event on Facebook. I went to the rankings page to find the event, to find the players, but it was a manual entry event, so the players aren't listed. I went to a great deal of effort, so I'm sorry, sir, for forgetting your names. But I, after a thorough loss round 1 to Tomb Kings, I was like, great, down the bottom. I'll play as someone who's also been beaten quite soundly. And of course, I was playing Tomb Kings again, but just a much harder list this time. Not the tippy top pointy end of optimized, but I was playing into Orchery Cults. So he had his level 4 with the, I think it's the flail on the bone dragon with illusion.
Serpent staff, maybe.
Yes, yeah, I think so. With illusion and law familiar for spectral doppelganger. And he had a necrosphinx, and he had some snakes that are not very good, but I was scared of them because I didn't know what they did. A casket and a unit of 7 Boa Shabti, and then a unit of, I think it was 20 Skelly Archers with his Hierophant, and Misk Other Mage for giving him a level 2 for just giving him the +1 to his Arise. No, not Arise, whatever it's called. The Resurrection rule. And we were playing Flank Attack, which I noticed on your table, Jabe, you conveniently didn't play.
I didn't play anything different for any of them. Wasn't even sure that I was supposed to.
No, and I know they were just shouting out the scenarios before the thing, but my opponent was dead set on playing the scenario, and I was like, great, as we should, I guess. I've never played it before. Read it a few times, was like, oh, okay, I'll mark down these units just at random. And so just the takeaways from this game is that I am dumb, I'm bad at Warhammer, Empire is bad, I am bad, and I should burn all my dice and also never play Warhammer again because I'm bad at Warhammer. That's what I learned this game. So my flanking force, I put in. What did I put in? It was stupid. It was like 1 cannon and the fire guy, but not with a unit of knights to protect him at all, to give him one character or anything.
So it's really well thought out then, your strategy.
No, not even. And then the rest of the deployment, I was like, oh, I guess I'll just put everything behind itself and facing every which way and crammed up in a big mess over it was so stupid. I've never been. No, that's a lie. I probably have been, but it was very stupid. And so, yeah, nothing. It was It was all bad. The last 4 turns of the game was just mop up for him, basically. uh, because also in list construction, I didn't really consider dragons, which with Empire you really have to, because you have almost nothing to control. Realistically, you have to do lots of thinking and planning. But yeah, how did it really pan out? It wasn't like, and then also if you're running a bunch of cannons, you're like, you know what, and fire guy, you're like target acquisition. What do I shoot first? What are my target priorities? What can I kill? What should I kill? These are the things I need to be considering. And so I was like, I'll do one cannon here. I'll do this one over there. Fire guy will just do like that. And it was just a complete mess. And then I got lured in. I was like, oh, monstrous infantry. The bow sharpsy turns sideways to shoot my wizard or something stupid. And I was like, oh, God, I'm going to put a cannonball right through them all. And I killed like 4 of them or something, and then brought them all back because it doesn't fucking matter. It was so dumb. I was just very, very annoyed at myself and frustrated with this game.
So what happened? So it sounded like the first game you deployed with a lot more intent and strategy behind it potentially, and your target practice was a lot, who you're prioritizing was a lot more thought out. So what happened in the second game? Was it you just tired? Or
I think yeah, maybe just brain fade. I think this scenario probably threw me. It was just like just a mess on my behalf. And then also playing on one of those high tables. It's sort of like
That's interesting.
Not like waist height, but maybe like not chest height, like that high. That kind of threw me as well. I was like, looking at it is different. I have to like move differently. My arms are higher to roll things, and my books are behind me. It was a mess. It was not good.
Danny,
You had a bit of a struggle.
It was, yeah. So I don't know if I learnt too much, to be honest. What was useful? There's just a lot of things that also. No, I don't know. I'm just learning. Stress testing. I haven't played against dragons much, and stress testing against them is interesting. Like,
Look, I think we're all in that same bit. We've been playing in our own local meta of 3 people with three different armies. I've been punching down on ogres and empire the entire time. You've been figuring out your ogres, and you've both been trying to take off filthy orcs. And I haven't faced a dragon yet. I haven't faced screams. I don't understand what all of the Tomb King rules are, and I think we just need more games. We need more events.
100%, yeah. And it was good. It was really good to familiarize myself with Tomb Kings because they are very, very strong. And there was something I learned. The rule where you can pop up a unit from beneath the sands. It removes models. You take an initiative test for one initiative test for every unit strength of the unit that pops up. He had a unit of 3 monstrous cav, so 9 initiative tests. And my knights failed 4 of them. And I lost 4 knights.
Is that a rule? I did not realize that.
Until we found out that it only works on infantry.
Oh.
So it's actually not that great. But it was almost devastating. I also it's yeah, I mean, taking the snakes is probably a bit of a tax. They're really bad. The casket explodes. That's fun. I learned that the hard way. But yeah, just dealing with a big dragon. I didn't really have anything on my list that could do it, and so I tried a few things that didn't work, and that just meant I was feeding his army. So I charged my general into his dragon just to see if I could hold it up for a fair while, hopefully, and then didn't dispel doppelganger, and so he just got munched.
Shocking. Well, the thing with doppelganger is it's like every turn, like including your own, right? So,
yes, yeah, exactly. So it did take him 2 turns, but I was really hoping
but if it's 50,
I just forgot he was a wizard, to be honest. Like,
but if it's like a 50-50 to cast it, right, to get through the dispel, then you're still getting it literally every turn, right? Because my reflections on playing. I haven't played against the Tomb King one, but I've played against the VC one a couple of times, and I think just like conceptually into the Tomb King one, you actually just have to kill it. You're not going to combat res it out because I think they're like -3 to their
Yes.
crumble, right?
Yes.
So, and like obviously you're not going to, break it and run it down, which potentially is something you can do against living dragons. So you need to be able to like just throw a bucket of attacks at it, whether that's through poison attacks or high strength attacks or things like that. And then you've got to do it quickly because otherwise he's just going to get res back again. So like it's pretty tricky, right? Like you can't just like do a few wounds with the cannon over and hit it over a few different turns, right? Like it's not going to work either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways of like tried and tested ways of approaching the dragon problem, which I just didn't have any of in my list. So I was like, oh, maybe the demis will do something to it because he's only tough 5 and I'm strength 5. So I was like, and whiffed completely, and then he took them off in two rounds of combat. Like just these things that went poorly for me.
So you figured out then, if you're refining your list, and obviously you're going to be writing a CanCon list, which for those of you who don't know is traditionally the biggest tournament in Australia. It's held up in Canberra on Australia Day, so it's like late Jan, and it's been 2,400 points. And so this year it's going to be 2,400. We don't know how big it'll be yet, but it'll be pretty big because it's big enough to pull people from Melbourne to fly up to Canberra. So you're going to face dragons. You hadn't considered it. Now you know you need to. What are you going to do with the list to deal with that?
Yeah. So there's a few things. There's a few things that actually doesn't matter, Jabe. Guess why? Empire Book's going to drop in Jan 1 and my whole list will change.
Yeah. So just delay.
Maybe you'll have something to do. Well, one of the things you can do, like the triple saves is hard, but just concentration of fire and not being too afraid of it. Like 3 cannons, 2 engineers, and a steam tank, or 2 steam tanks at CanCon points levels can feasibly over 2 turns. Like if you get first and you go 2 turns, you can do enough. You maybe take it out, or just do enough that they don't want to charge in and risk losing that last one.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. But in a big takeaway of this tournament for me has been that because everything is so fast, because there's reserve move, because there's marching columns, you don't have enough time to shoot stuff. I think shooting is like the cannons have significantly underperformed in everything I've had with them. So maybe not even taking the stationary ones and just taking the steam tanks. But in terms of the dragon problem, my current thinking at the moment is there's a few things you can do. You can take Outriders, big unit of Outriders, and a Priest of Ulrich to give their guns multi-wound 2. So you can say you got 20 of them and you put 60 shots because they're quick shot and they're Vanguard. So turn 1, you're putting 60 shots into them, all of which are multi-wound 2. It's just like number of attacks at range. So it's like you can do that.
Is there any armor piercing on them?
AP 1, yeah, and armor bane 1. And you're looking for 6s anyway.
It's
rough.
That's
going to do anything. If you've got 60 shots, you're gonna get 10 6s to wound, but you're only going to hit. You're going to hit like 20 times if you're hitting on 5s. You're hitting on 5s.
Should be hitting on 4. Wait,
assume you're long range.
It'll just be long range, but you haven't moved. Yeah. What are they? BS 4. So they hit on 3s, and then you haven't moved, but you're long range. So, but multi-shot, 5s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
you're
going to get 40 shots, and then 3 of those are going to wound, and then of those, he's going to save
2, at least.
Probably all of them bar like 0.6 or 0.5 or something. And then you do 2 wounds on that. You maybe do a wound a turn.
But the better approach would be you can get a unit of knights to static res 6, which takes a bit of investment, not as much investment as a dragon. 6 with a musician is enough. You win ties.
No, 6 isn't enough. You need 7.
You need 7? Isn't 6 the magic number? Why do you need 7? 5 plus.
Because he's gonna do 1 to the model and 5 overkill, which is 6.
6.
Here's one that I learned recently as well, is that champions can't um, deny challenges and have no negative effects. If they deny a challenge, the champion has to go to the back rank, which is potentially bad for
If
uh,
you deny a challenge, your opponent picks which model goes to the back rank.
yeah. So yeah, that's right. So, but if you're just a unit, let's say you're 4 demigriffs or 4 Milnfang or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, and you've got a champion in there. Um, if the dragon that you charged or they charged you declares a challenge, then you either have to accept or you go to the back rank, which is an easy way for the dragon to actually get rid of a model fighting you if you want to. And so, really, actually, I'm thinking this is actually a win for dragons as well. Not that they need it, because they can always choose. Oh yeah, I'll declare a challenge or not. Well, sorry,
Because if it's
one,
refused,
you know
they
what I
can
mean?
just send a model away.
Yeah, yeah. Which is just interesting to see how that plays out. So that's something I learned during the week as well. There was a few comments going on in one of the chats.
Well, I didn't know about that.
So
but I
wait,
mean,
why is 6 not enough if you win with a tie with a musician?
I think you might be right. So if you got
6 is the
Muso,
number, right?
if you got Muso, then yeah, effectively you win by 1. Yeah. Yeah.
But
But it's
that's
not.
it'll make
That's
him,
not enough
it'll
to
hold
get
him up
a
for a
Tomb
turn.
King
Yeah.
dragon. Like
No,
you're
the
not
Tomb
going to
King
get.
dragon is just like, what the fuck do I do?
So the other thing that's ironically very good at killing dragons, which is running around right now, is a Tomb King list. I forget which special faction or whatever it is in the Arcane
Royal
Journal. Is it the
Royal
Royal Host, the one that's running around with like 100 poisoned archers?
Yeah.
They can all,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or the Night Goblin block that's done the rounds recently of
yeah,
100 poison Night Goblins. Yeah.
Well, I think the Tomb King one's even better, right? Because you can volley fire after moving, and you can just res them back, and they're
Yeah,
never
but it doesn't have
running off the
fanatics.
board.
So,
That's true.
no.
24-inch range,
Fanatics don't
not
matter when the
16.
unit dies. Yeah.
And
But yeah,
you're
so
not
there's
getting Plague of Rust in there, I don't think either. Oh, maybe you are.
and it
Yeah.
depends on the dragon as well. So like the other bad options that are options the Empire has is that general I ran against you with a bedazzling helm. And so ward save 2 up, 5 up, neg 1 to be hit. Should last a few rounds ish. Against the Black Orc, no, because your weapon skill 7. But he is weapon skill 6. So against some dragons, it's not terrible. But that's another option ish. But like there's it's
I think your real strategy
as a human.
is bury your head in the sand and hope that the Arcane Journal comes out with the rod of dragon destroying or something, or like some
Jabe, this
signature
is
law.
literally what I've been doing.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
The actual, oh yeah, that's true. And another faint hope that someone said somewhere, which I give probably 1% credence to, if you're asking about percentage of the rumor being true or not, is that a unit that was pretty famous in olden day versions of the Empire and 4th and 5th edition.
The landship?
No, the Imperial Dragon. The
Oh.
zoo in the Empire has but
Well,
one fearsome Imperial Dragon.
Everything. That would change everything.
Imagine the salt though, if the fix to like Empire for a faction filled with stodgy old players like me that are like, I like state troops and ranks and files and detachments, and the fix to them to make them competitive is just another fucking dragon.
They would sell like hotcakes, though. Games Workshop would be mad to not print that model.
Oh boy! Yeah. Oh boy!
I didn't know that was like a fluff thing from like the 4th and 5th edition.
Yeah. So you can take it.
That's great.
Take it in 6th even, but yeah, in 8th, the Imperial Dragon was a thing. Yeah, in the what do you call it? The Imperial Zoo. In
Monstrosity, monster something. I don't know. Anyway, menagerie. Don't know.
Menagerie. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So that was just to make a very long story short. That was just a bad game by me.
Yeah.
And your round 3 opponent, Danny?
My round 3 opponent was my beautiful girlfriend, love of my life, who I drove home to because I dropped from the event. Because I heard
You took the
actually
buy.
I took the buy. Earlier you were talking about having to spend all your brownie points for getting home so late. Not me, dude.
You didn't need to.
Not me. And I was home and I had a lovely dinner and the sun was still up. And I felt really good about not driving an hour at night after losing 3 games. So.
Okay. Very good. Cry on your girlfriend's lap. Lovely.
No, it wasn't so much a rage quit, but I just assessed the situation, and I thought, in 3 hours, if I'm still an hour away from home and I'm still playing Warhammer, I'll probably be less happy than if I went home and I think we had like a barbecue and like got some like chicken salt chippy on the road. It was good.
Fair enough. My takeaway
That's
from
cute.
that is probably in order for us to know how to beat dragons, we probably actually have to play some. And fail a bunch so that we can then learn what we should be
and
doing.
I've got some hypotheses, but it's all you math hammer it out, and then none of it looks good. So
and you listen on the podcast, and people listen to this. They're like, "Oh, you idiots! It's so simple. All you do is like."
True. The game's been around for long enough, and people know this stuff, and we're just like,
They know it, but we're still just exploring it, which begs the question: why are you listening to us, idiots, rabbit on about our
guys? Turn it off. There's an X in the corner of this window. Just click the X.
Yeah, if there's anything that we said wrong on this cast, please put it in the comments and just, tell Jabe and Danny why they're wrong.
If there's anything, for all of the things that we've got wrong, put it in there and some of the other boys can...
Close your browser. Close your browser. Turn your screen
and just
off.
help the algorithm.
Into the forest, touch some grass.
Lachie, game 3.
Yeah, I want to hear about your game on the top table, Jabe. So I'll try and be quick. But I played Scott 3, who was an Empire player. I think he had the bye in round 2. So 3 hours is a long time in the middle of the day to be having a bye. So I felt bad for Scott, but he was a lovely guy. He had, what did he have? He had a guy on a griffin. He had a fire guy. He had a BSB with the griffin banner and a big unit of halberds. He had a unit of greatswords, a unit of knights, a steam tank. He had a hellblaster, a cannon, and I think some outriders was his list. So, fairly balanced list. We were playing. It used to be called meeting engagement. I'm not sure what it's called now, but it's one where you split it on the diagonal, and I think it's Chris Cousins' least favorite scenario because you have to roll a dice for every unit at the start of the game, and on a 1 it comes in on reserve. So of course I rolled first, and my fire guy started in reserve, which was very sad. And Scott's army did not have anything starting in reserve. So that was a little bit worrying. Luckily, what I did turn 1 is I vanguarded up my unit of 2 saber tusks. He placed, I think, his artillery a little bit too close because I don't think he realized that Vanguard that I had Vanguard and that Vanguard can charge after vanguarding. And because you're so close already on meeting engagement, it's a very, almost an automatic charge. So the 2 saber tusks went into a cannon, took it off, and my Iron Blaster shot into his Hell Blaster and took it off. So turn 1, I've taken out both of his artillery, which felt good. I was like, even if my fire guy's off the board, this is okay. And there was a couple of things that happened. He, for example, rolled a bunch of dice to hit with his outriders into some saber tusks, and then none of them hit. And then I realized, actually, you sure you're hitting on 6s? I think you're hitting on 4s or something. So I let him have it back, and that killed all my saber tusks. So maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I was trying to be a good guy. The Yetis had a flank charge into his steam tank, turn 2, I think it was, and so their their open order, which is probably their one big weakness, and the steam tank does get a close order. Danny, is that right? So basically, I'm starting 1 combat. Well, with the flank charge, I think we're even, but he did 1 wound with the grind, and with my bucket of attacks hitting on 2s or something and wounding on 6s, didn't do any damage, unfortunately. So they broke, and they basically were, for the rest of the game, rallying and then like coming back in and then fleeing again because he was casting the flee spell, and there was a couple other
Cowardly
things for
Flight.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the steam chain
that
declaring charges with terror, that sort of thing.
yeah, so they literally spent the rest of the game just like rallying and then fleeing again, rallying, fleeing again, which was very disappointing. Um, I ended up grinding out his knights. And the steam tank was just causing me lots of issues. But yeah, I failed quite a few leadership checks this game, which probably brought him back into it. And yeah, I think it was a bit chaotic in the center. I think the Iron Guts went into his unit of halberds, kind of grinded them down, but then I think he ended up winning because of the combat res of the Griffin standard over a couple of turns. So the halberds, I think the Griffin, held my Iron Guts up enough for his Griffin to come in and get the Iron Guts down. Then the Stonehorn was able to go in and finish off his halberd, so I got some points there. But then the Griffin came and got my Iron Blaster, so we traded a few points here and there. But I think I was up, by maybe 300 or 400 points by the end of it. So, as I said, a bit chaotic, lots of failed leadership checks, even though I was fairly confident at the start of the game. Steam tanks are hard to deal with. He was just on the flank after, my Yetis were off doing their own thing. Wasn't able to really threaten it after that. So it's interesting.
What do you mean? You just charge your Black Orc War boss and moving into it, and you should deal with it in a couple of turns.
Yeah, well, that would be nice to have a 330 point, just amazing unit like a Black Orc War Boss.
Although I do have to say, steam tanks are a steal at 265. That's really nice for a mobile large target cannon that can see over anything, and a steam gun and 10 wounds on toughness 7 with 3 up. It's like I'll pay that.
They're very good, but I think some anything with an ogre blade is probably going to just go and rip through it, right?
Yes. I had this experience just the other day against a big game against Nick, and I was left with no option, so I charged his Chaos Lord with an ogre blade. Forgetting he had an ogre blade, but he was going to charge me the next turn anyway, so whatever. And he got 3 wounds through. And I'd already taken 1 wound because I misfired earlier in the game. And he was like, that's 9 damage. Off the steam tank in a turn. I was like, oh, damn. That's serious shit. Yeah, Ogre Blade's going to Ogre Blade. It's very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was interesting. So I'd already played Empire a few times, so it wasn't heaps of learnings that I had in terms of new, playing against new armies or new experiences. But it was definitely probably another reinforcement of just watch about me going super wide, or trying to get around the flanks with low leadership ogres. As much as tempting as it is.
Yep, stick with your bubble of safety.
Yeah, that's it. So finished the day on two wins and a loss, which I was happy with, considering I had won a game going into the event.
Yeah, solid.
Very well done. Very well done.
Thanks, mate.
Nice.
Jabe, top table, bring it home.
So I played against Reese McGlynn with Dwarves, with the Royal Throng or whatever it is. It's not the Royal.
What flavor is that? Are they the fighty dwarves or the shitty dwarves?
The fighty chargy ones.
Great.
And so he had a couple of grudge throwers, a pony cart, 3 units of Iron Drakes with the Troll Hammer. Then no gyrocopters. Actually, maybe you can't even take them in that anyway. A unit of Rangers, I want to say. And then a big brick of Longbeards with a BSB with a whole bunch of runes on it and very fighty. And then the Longbeards had Rune of Hesitation and Rune of whatever the other one is. the ones that make you not want to charge them. And so it's kind of like Hammerer's Light, I suppose, but with points from core. And so that was I'll get to what actually happened with that, but that was the thing that ended up doing the work. And so in this one, I don't think my artillery did that much. I can't really remember, but I tried to get the black. Oh, he also had the Dirty Harry Thane that does the exploding shots that multiply and all that kind of jazz. And so that was good to see that after having heard about it on podcasts. So I had my ball boys off on the right flank with a hopper, I think a hopper boss and some swig hoppers, I think. And they were going for the grudge thrower that was sitting in the corner. But then the Rangers came and popped themselves down in front of them. And then he shot the ball boys off. And by the time that they were ready to charge the Rangers, I think they charged him with, I don't know, 5 of them left or something, and he shot all of them off except for 2 on the charge. And so only got 2 into combat, and then they flubbed their rolls and he spanked the ball boys, and so that flank was a fail. But that's all good, because off on the left flank, where the main event is, we've got a couple of units of Night Goblins and all of their fanatics, and a unit of amazing Black Orcs and a Wyvern and all of the toys and the casters and ready to go. And he kind of I threw my my Wyvern over, and I think they ate a unit of he had a unit of Iron Drakes, I think, or something else. And then he marched his fucking drilled unit of Longbeards up, and they did drilled shenanigans, which is something I need to learn to respect. Things that they couldn't get through, they drilled, and now they can get through. And then he marched them right up, put them 1 inch away from my Black Orcs. And I didn't really want to charge them because they've got the Rune of Hesitation and the other rune that means that I can't remember what it means, that they reroll armor, or you don't want to charge them. I can't remember what it is. But it's bad news.
Just don't fight me. Don't fight me combo.
Impossible to kill. Just like.
Well, yeah. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly what it is. Everyone on the internet will know what I'm talking about. But it's the stuff that makes you not want to fight them. And it was convincing enough at the time. But I very cleverly had a couple of units of Night Goblins who threw out all of their fanatics into the gap between the Black Orcs and the Dwarves, but I couldn't get them far enough along. And it took me like half an hour to do this. And this is another thing. My pace of play needs to increase. I'll acknowledge that. I've always been a slow player. I can't help it. But maybe I've...
No, Jabe, you just play armies that score points in the first few turns. You're fine.
Yeah, well, that's true. I need to take more shooting and finicky things that need lots of rolls and considering. Anyway, so I popped them all down, but they were all kind of on one side. And then I did it. I forgot to actually throw them through him. And so that was a mistake. And so he charged through them without, and then I didn't throw them back. So anyway, I fucked up my fanatics because I hadn't really used them at this point in the tournament. The first 2 games, no fanatics happened. Which was interesting. Anyway, so he drilled and decreased his frontage, and then only went through 2 of the fanatics, and they failed to do any wounds. And then he got in. I had my Black Orcs in a like a fighting line. What's it called? Line hammer, like 15 of them, and they didn't do a damn thing. And his dwarves just smacked the Black Orcs, who ran away, and he ran them down. And then yeah, it was brutal. And the Black Orc failed to take off his what's the rune casty thing? Anvil of Doom. Turns out that thing's fucking tough. It's not.
I mean, it's a dwarf thing, right? That's not unexpected, surely.
I was just like, it's like a war machine, whatever. I'll just go over and the Black Orc will just take it off. Like, he takes everything off that's not a super fighty. And then he just kind of like did a couple of wounds, and he's still got a whole bunch of wounds.
Is it a character sitting on top of it, or is it an actual war machine?
Just like a whole bunch of extra wounds and high toughness and
unbreakable, probably. Yeah.
Unbreakable. Might even be tough. Maybe it's tough 7 or something. I don't know. It's pretty tough.
Special thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so he didn't do that. We ran out of time, and so he won in the end. And because win loss draw, we didn't really calculate it, and I'm not sure. It was probably somewhere like 12 or 13. Might have been 14, but we're not really sure because who knows what would have happened after. We ran out of time. My fault.
What turn did you make it to?
Like 4 or something. And it all would have happened pretty quickly after that. But
it's 2/3 of the game. You don't know what would have happened.
Yeah. Anyway, and so things I realised afterwards is, you idiot, Jabe. Travel mystical pathway. Move your Black Orcs away from the unit you don't want to fight, and move them onto the other side of the board and march them up and start deleting his fucking Iron Drakes and War Machines and shit. And so that was a bit of like, you're just an idiot for doing the wrong things. The thing that ruined me, and look, dice happen, right? But I didn't get Plague of Rust in that game. I didn't get Wind Blast in that game. So neither of the 2 elemental spells that you really want. And then
the third is Travel Mystical Pathways, though. That one's pretty.
Well, that's true. But I forgot to use that. So
It's so bad.
Yeah. And then I cast Itchy Nuisance on his big unit as he was coming in. I'm sitting there going, I'm going to throw Fanatics through this thing, and then his toughness is going to be low, and I'm just going to delete it because the AP 3 on Strength 5, it's going to be amazing. And then failed my Itchy Nuisance. Not to worry, and he's not even within Dispel range. Not to worry, I've got a reroll on that from my Idol of Gork, and then failed it again. And so
would you need like a 5 or something on the dice? Yeah,
something like that. Like it's not a real lot. And so that was bad luck, but bad luck happens to everyone. And if Reese was telling this story, he would be talking about the whatever it was where his dice failed, in the way that we always do, right? We remember the things that don't work that we did, and not the things that didn't work for the opponent. And we're all a little bit biased like that.
Sure. 100%.
And so what I learned from that was drilled. You just got to be thinking about everything that they possibly could do with that. Cast your Travel Mystical Pathways. And I probably should have put a little bit more over on the flank against the Grudge Thrower to make sure that I won that. I was probably a little unlucky with my saves and whatever happened, but it was respect the dwarves, respect the fighting block, and good on Reese for taking an infantry block that worked. A fighting block that was great to see the dwarves not just sitting back and shooting shit, but charging in. And with that +1 charge movement on the charge, or +1 strength, and it wasn't +1 movement, it's +1 strength on the charge, plus the dwarf cart, and then drilling up 8 on the anvil, giving another move or something. It was just like, whoo! It
can be pretty quick. I think that the Royal Host. That was we shared that takeaway, the absolute nuisance that you can be with Travel Mystical Pathways. Like, if someone has spent the entire game marching their unkillable infantry block over to a big chunk of points in your army, and they're going to charge you, and you just move them, you just pop your unit down behind them and run away. Just the strength and I love it.
I suppose you could also do that, if you win combat, for example, but you want to get out of it, and you push them back and you choose not to follow up, and then you can just see you later, or I'm gonna get out that way as well if you really need to. You know what I mean? Because it's
and yes, it's a spell and they can dispel and stuff, but if you're somehow out of dispel range or you've tied up their wizards, it's fun, it's cool.
Well,
the movement spells are really good.
It's a very powerful spell. I think Elementalism is really strong. Between that and Plague of Rust, they're like game-changing spells. Being able to cast a Hex into combat, wow.
I really I really love almost all the magic laws in the old world, like in this edition, because it's not this one's got the kill everything spell. It's like they all have, most of them have some really powerful spells that aren't just like I kill your unit. Like they're powerful in really interesting ways, and you have to think to use them. Like Arcane Urgency, super powerful. Pillar of Fire, less thinking involved, but still super powerful. Illusion's got Mirage and Column of Crystal, both super powerful in their own like weird ways if you know how to use them. There's a whole lot of stuff. Demonology, the flying infantry, 36 inches across the board, is like can be really good. But
I love
Magic.
Magic. Magic's great. It's just a pity we have to take level 4s and that level 2s are not viable. So
that's true.
But
That's true.
anyway, this is not a bemoan about the game. I think Magic's great, and so Reese won that, and he was very gracious for me, effectively slow playing. So I'm kind of glad he got the win there, and so he ended up winning the tournament, which was great for him. But never to worry, I walked away with a box of Black Orcs for best sport.
Nice.
But you
got best sports, even though you slow played 2 of your opponents and beat the snot out of 2 of them. That's
well,
crazy.
no, I didn't win it. I walked away with the box because Lachie had already gone.
You stole the prize. That's good.
And so I've got a box. I'm waiting for you for best sports, mate.
Thanks, mate. I'm still not sure how this happened. Was again, I feel bad for my first game against Scott being a bit salty about the things I was salty at. So
maybe he gave you a sports vote because
still very nice. Maybe he felt bad for me, and he was like, yeah, maybe he felt bad for me. Anyway, but no, very gracious. Very humble to win a prize like that
that is the top prize after all. Best sports is
that's good.
So it was
good day,
good tournament. I was glad to have gone there. It's good to have played against armies that haven't played against before, and to doing it again. I have ruminations on the list. Going into it, I was tossing up between that and going in with my Poison Archer block, again with Travical Mystical Pathways. And since then, it turns out the internet's upgraded it to 90.
Well, I still think it's over 100 now.
Okay, well, I still think I'd probably only run 50 or 60, but I think it's probably the better list than the one that I took in. But I took in a pretty hard list. I think really I just got to get better at playing and playing faster. Ruminations on a list for either of you and things to take out from the tournament?
Yeah, I have a 7,000 million ruminations on the list, but it feels quite often like with Empire feels quite often, as I've said before, like you're like, oh, let's try this other thing that I could do with this list, and you find out that it's still kind of bad. Lots of different ways to be very medium. There's some fun. Yeah, I think the next. I'd like to do some stuff with. I know Angus Sturt Bray has done really well. I don't like he's won a bunch of events with Empire. I'm gonna pick his brains. Let's see what he's doing. I have the sneaking suspicion though that he's just a very good player. So really utilizing, I think, because he's running the Demonology, or has run in the past the Demonology Mage with the Halberdiers, like launching them across the board and various sneaky little tricks.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a few things that will be coming in the next iteration. Give Inner Circle Knights a go. Give some Priests a go. Give Inner Circle Knights and Priests a go. And maybe Dark Magic.
You're not really sure. You're just going to keep on fucking around with stuff, and you just
throwing my head against the wall. The current iteration, I think, is going to be interesting. And then there's so many other things to try and so many more models to buy. Outriders, I would like to try. I think they put out a lot of good shooting. Multiple Griffins, they're cheap. You can just have like a bunch of flying terror causes. But I've played Tomb King so much recently and so much in general that whenever I think of something, I think that seems like it would be quite powerful. Like, oh, terror, great, like a couple of terror causes, and then I think about playing into Tomb Kings, and I think that won't do anything. Right. So yeah,
more demigriffs. The list that you played
so
against me a week or two before the event how many demigriffs does that have? Like 10?
Yeah.
That felt a lot more scary than your current list, to be honest. So maybe go back to that.
I
What
mean,
about you?
runs into its own problems though. Like that list still has nothing that can deal with dragons, and
Yeah.
is great against ogres. Probably really good because it's just full send, but there's no shooting. There's no like. I just don't know if it faces up
Well,
against.
the other thing about it is, like, you spend your time listening to podcasts and stuff online, and then our impression of what the meta is based on a bunch of people that we're never going to play. And we still
100%.
don't even know what our own meta is. And so how do you build your list to be able to deal with a meta that you don't know what it is? I mean, you should build your list to be able to deal with screams and dragons and, big flying
Well,
units of poison archers. But we haven't had the games.
My impression. I'd like to know your opinions as well. Also, after your list, thoughts and ruminations, Lachie. But just quickly, my question that I'll posit would be: how do you think? My impression of the event that we went to at Chento Park was that the lists were, by and large, quite like mostly relatively strong factions and mostly pretty. I wouldn't say like pointy and competitive, but like designed to be good lists. There was 2 MSU Wood Elf lists. There was a bunch of Bretonians. There was a lot of Tomb Kings.
I think it's
So I don't
probably
know.
half. I mean, I think there was definitely a few softer,
Definitely a
fluffier
few
lists, but
thematic
there were
plays. For sure.
definitely some strong players playing some strong lists. Not quite probably like the as good as you can make them, but certainly punching up that,
Yeah.
up there.
But your list, Lachie, what do you think about it?
I said earlier, but I quite like it. I think it's fairly balanced. I think I'd like to run it into some more dragons. I'd like to run it into something like the big poison archer blocks, whether that's night goblins or tomb kings or whatever, and just see how that holds up. Like I think having a few different units, some scouting and that kind of thing, hopefully would give people a little bit more targets to have to deal with rather than a few single big blocks
Yeah.
or big dragons and things like that, which is good. But so I don't know. I still struggle to fit everything that I want to because I think ogres are just generally expensive. Like I've got my level 4 and I've got my BSB, but obviously you can't fit a tyrant on top of that. The level 4 is still expensive. You're paying a lot more points than other fire guys are paying for.
Yeah, you are.
But yeah, excited for 2400 and messing around with that a little bit to add the tyrant or even a second level 4, which I've also played around with. And so here's a question for you. This is what I've been considering. Maybe my last question for the cast, as I'm just conscious of time. But for a tyrant who, might be sitting in a block of iron guts, or he even might be sitting on a stone horn. Do you guys, if you had a dragon, would you be more scared of the tyrant if he had the dragon slaying sword, or the ogre blade, or the tenderizer, which is basically
Ogre
a
blade,
slightly better version of
tenderizer,
the ogre blade? Really?
tenderizer. Yeah.
Because if I'm against
How many
your, like
attacks
for
do you have?
example, he'd have 6 with the tenderizer, and he gets an extra 1, or
I don't know,
5
with
with
dragon slaying. 5
with the
attacks.
dragon.
What's his weapon skill?
6, and he'd
There's
get
access to
a
rerolls?
one reroll to wound against a dragon. So he gets an extra shot at it, kind of thing. It's dicey, but I don't think the tenderizer actually kills some of the really tough dragons out there. I think the tenderizer is much better against a steam tank or something like that, or demigriffs, of course. But I've just been math hammering it out. Like I'm not
take
sure.
elementals?
Yes, absolutely. So you can put the doppelganger, a doppelganger guy with the tenderizer, but you can also do a doppelganger guy with
Hang on,
with a dragon
No,
slaying
not
sword.
illusion.
Oh,
Elemental.
not illusion. What's
Plague
what's
of
Rust.
illusion doing? Plague of Rust. Yeah, that's an option too.
So if my thoughts, dragon slaying sword has got no armor piercing. So you're going to go up against a 2-up, 5-up, 5-up.
But if I hit
No,
a 6, it'll just kill you.
No armor or regen allowed. Only ward saves against dragon.
If I roll a 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be happy to throw the Wyvern into that more so than the tenderizer.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be dice, right? I think the dragon slaying sword is something that scares people off a lot, and it has its spike value. But the tenderizer is going to deliver value no matter what the target is. It's not just the big monsters. It's going to work against everything. So I don't know. I think the rest of the time you're sitting there with a no armor piercing weapon that you're just not going to be able to grind through stuff like knights and all that kind of stuff, and it makes him just underperform.
So what you can fit on him with the meteoric iron armor, as well as the dragon slaying sword, would be the sword of might, I think it is, so +1 strength and armor piercing. So you can fit both of them because sword of might is common. You can choose, So
Can you choose
anyway,
between two magnets?
I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna play around with anyway in my next little iteration. So anyway, I don't think the tenderizer is actually good enough to take out the toughest dragons.
The other problem
that's my gut feeling.
If your opponent does have a dragon and you are running the dragon slaying sword, you're never going to fight. If they don't want to fight you, then
that's
you're never
fine. That's fine. Don't come near my iron guts,
Right. So then effectively what you've got is you're kitting out your tyrant to be maximally useful versus something that you're never going to actually fight unless they want to fight you. If they want to fight you, then there's a reason they want to fight you, and that's bad. And the cost of that is the rest of the time he's vastly underperforms with the other model. Whereas your tenderizer he's terrifying to everything, and maybe he's not quite as good into dragons, and maybe they want to fight him, and then maybe you spank him with your 6 attacks and your multi wounds, right? Like I don't know. I think you kind of want an answer to dragons, but that answer to dragons is they just kind of avoid if they want.
Or the other answer to dragons is keep playing me, keep playing Jabe, keep playing Nick, and none of us will ever run dragons against you, except maybe Nick.
I'm pretty sure Nick will be running multi-dragons at some point, don't you?
Very soon.
All
right, chat, let me know. Dragon slaying sword or tenderizer.
What is that?
No, it's just something I had on the shelf lying around.
A dragon. Right. You're gonna put some paint on that?
Some what?
You're gonna put some paint on that?
Yeah, maybe. What's this? Oh, jeez, I just found a little dragon.
What are you going to do with them? There's no Imperial Dragons yet. Are you going to?
Am I running Warriors of Chaos double dragon at CanCon? Who knows?
Jabe, do you want to close us out with some list thoughts?
Look, for me, really, I think I go the poison archers, not as many as the 90, and then otherwise my list stays kind of the same. The Black Orcs I'll probably reduce down to 5 and just make them a non-combat unit. And what I've learned about the Orcs is that I really enjoy having a balanced army, an all-comers army. And so I've got my combat brick, which is the Black Orcs. I've got my ball boys, so I've got my cav there. I've got some artillery. And then I've got the fanatics. I've got my big monster, and I've got a bunch of magic. I compete everywhere. Sure, it takes me fucking forever, but I like it. But actually, if I wanted to win games, then the Black Orcs aren't much doing anything. And what the army effectively is a shooting army. The fanatics are defensive shooting in a sense, and then there's double caster that's in there firing their stuff, and so that's a shoot me thing. And then there's the doom divers and the bolt thrower, and so it's pretty much a shooting list. And so the Black Orcs don't really fit. The army doesn't need them. The ball boys are their own thing, but if I wanted to go harder with the army, then I'd take the ball boys and the Black Orcs out, bulk up, get some archers, and then really go for what it is. The thing is, do I actually want to do that? And I'm not sure that I do. So probably what I end up doing is cutting the Black Orcs down to 5, and then leaving the ball boys in because I like them and they're fun, and then bulking up the archers with the poison banner so that I've got some options. But it's essentially a defensive list that for some reason has got some cav in it, with my squig hoppers, which are my favourite unit. They're so good. Oh my God.
Never lose the squig hoppers. They're so good.
They're so good. I'm thinking
get more squig hoppers if anything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wouldn't mind either a third unit or bulking them up in the numbers. But anyway, I think people have heard us rabbit on about our lists for long enough. Unless there's anything else you guys want to particularly bring to the table, I reckon we're probably done.
I have a closing thought.
Tell us. What is it, Danny?
I'm going to leave the community with this. I was talking to Lachie about this earlier. Guys, the old world has been out for 12 months. It's time. TOs around the country, it's time. Bring back painting requirements to tournaments. Sick of playing against your grey ghosts. All right. Who's?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We've been the Dwellers Below. Don't fail your strength test.
Strength test.